Israel's illegal war of aggression and illegal war of choice that it started on Friday, the 13th of June with Iran is not developing the way it wanted to, and things are escalating as we speak. This is a picture of last night of the sky over Tel Aviv. The missile, the air defense of Israel is obviously trying to shoot down the salvos of Iranian missiles, and it is not working despite a media blackout against that Israel demanded that people stop sharing pictures of and videos of the strikes. Some people still do. And my colleague in Norway, Glenn Deason, he correctly pointed out in a post today that Israel is losing the war it started, yet does not want to walk away from the historic opportunity to destroy Iran. Thus, the US entering the war is guaranteed. What is the exit strategy? Without ground troops, will the US murder Iranians until there is regime change or capitulation? That's exactly what's on everybody's mind at the moment. And he luckily also has one of these videos. Just, I mean, look at this. The way that Iran is able to strike Israel at the moment and hit large parts of Tel Aviv must be extremely scary and extremely frightening to the majority of the Israelis, because this is not supposed to happen. And what we know from the way that this started on Friday, and how we have seen also the U.S. president react to it and calling the attack, Israel's attack on Iran, a well-executed, beautiful thing. It is pretty clear that he was promised that this would end quickly, and probably that this would force the Iranians to make concessions that he, in 5 rounds of negotiations with them, wasn't able to get. Although I must emphasize again, the negotiations between Iran and the United States were ongoing. The technical issues and details were being negotiated, and the Iranians had already made major concessions, including a cap on the enrichment that they could do, and having an open-ended agreement, not like the JCPOA that was capped at 10 years, but having an indefinite agreement on their nuclear program and how to make sure that they wouldn't get nuclear weapons, because the Iranians time and again said that they are not seeking to develop nuclear weapons. Now, all of that was already given, but apparently it's obviously this was not enough, and we know that in these negotiations always try to connect also the missile program to the nuclear deal, and this was something unacceptable to Tehran, of course. And now we also know why Israel is so dead scared, because right now they're hit by these very missiles, and what we're also seeing at the moment is that the Iranians are obviously getting better at the defense of their own skies. Here, what you're seeing in this little video here is like the Tehran's air defense systems actually working, and obviously also shooting down projectiles in the sky. So apparently Iran is learning how to work on or against the Israeli attacks. We also see Iran unearthing several sites at which the Mossad, the Israeli Secret Service, was operating drone manufacturing sites inside Iran in order to subvert and attack Iran from the inside. All of this is happening, and it seems to me after 5 or 6 days, we also don't see any indication of large-scale protests in Tehran and other cities against the regime. So the regime change narrative of like, the people will rise up and now they will get rid in a large revolution of the Ayatollahs, that's just not happening. So now Donald Trump is getting seriously angry, apparently, and he has shown some erratic behavior over the last 48 hours, getting really also mad at journalists on Air Force One for even daring to ask what he thinks about Tulsi Gabbard, having said only in March that there's no indication that Iran is developing a bomb. And, Tulsi Gabbard being, of course, the head of the intelligence agencies in the US, right? And then Donald Trump replied to that, I don't care what she says. Tucker Carlson is attacking Donald Trump for trying to drag the United States in another forever war in the Middle East, and Donald Trump then replying that somebody needs to tell Tucker Carlson that he's not that it is Trump who's running the country. I mean, he's now getting a lot of counter reactions from his own base, from his own supporters, and we see this that there's a good part of his MAGA faction that is disillusioned with him, highly disillusioned that he would go to this length. But he, instead of standing down, instead of actually then putting pressure on the Israelis to stop, he is now demanding. In a tweet, he demanded unconditional surrender of Tehran in return for not. Supposedly for not bombing the country to hell, because yesterday he made these demands that Tehran be evacuated, a city of 10 million people. And as many others have already pointed out by now, Tehran, if you take the larger metropolitan area, that is like it's more close to 17 million people. If evacuation, if there was actually an attempt to evacuate the city, that act in and of itself would kill thousands of people. Just think of the old, the frail, the handicapped, people in hospitals, pregnant women giving birth. If you try to do that, it would kill thousands, just the evacuation efforts, and then apart from the question of where to put 17 million people just over the couple of a few days. This is, of course, an utter nonsense idea. It cannot be done. And if this is being used by the United States in order then to justify the death toll in a carpet bombing campaign, in the way that we've seen the US carpet bombing other countries, like Cambodia, like Laos, like Vietnam, like Iraq, 20 years ago, like, the way the United States often does carpet bombings in the Second World War, the destruction of Dresden, the carpet bombing and fire bombing of Tokyo, which in one single night killed 100,000 people, the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right, the two population centers with nuclear weapons. The US has a history of trying to hit in the most illegal of all manners population centers in order to break the fighting spirit of the opposing party. And now we are apparently at the brink of Donald Trump, out of anger, trying to go down that route. Now, all at the same time, why Israel is losing this campaign? The Israeli society is supporting this, and I mean, some of the videos on Twitter are just insane. I would play this video for you if there wasn't music in it. On YouTube, I cannot play music without fears of copyright strikes and stuff like that. But let me just show you. This is a family of three: a mother, a father, and probably their child, who are singing with a guitar and a cello. We bombed Iran, we bombed Tehran, we blocked their plan. Cause when you're messing with the Jews, you're always gonna lose. It's God's plan, and God rules the land. Bomb, 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 bomb Iran. Bomb, 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 bomb Iran. Yeah, that's that's as sick as it gets when it comes to to a society. So obviously, also in what this tells us is that obviously also in Israel, the support for this war is apparently still there. I mean, to the point where people think that making fun little social media music videos about it to lift the morale of everybody, that's gonna be a good thing. Yeah, it's a sick society, an utterly sick society, but fine. We now get closer to the point. I mean, we get the first reports in New York Times and other publications that U.S. intelligence shows that Iran has been preparing for possible strikes on U.S. bases. Sorry, what this is first reports to create the the facade, the possible threat level, right? That there's not only a threat to Israel, but there's a threat to the United States, right? First intelligence reports with people who know about the matter here say that Iran is preparing to attack the United States, right? The United States, which innocently just puts all of its military gear that it needs to attack Iran, that put it right around Iran, right? Innocent United States with its innocent aircraft carriers and its innocent military capabilities that are now parked next to Iran is going to be unprovokedly attacked, and Iran is preparing to do this evil attack on the innocent United States. This little article here then reads that Iran has prepared missiles and other military equipment for strikes on US bases in the Middle East should the United States join Israel's war against the country, according to American officials who have reviewed intelligence reports. So always fantastic. It's like I don't know how you come up with this, according to officials who we cannot name, but who have knowledge of the matter. So whenever this sentence falls, what it means is that the part of the U.S. State, the war system is pushing out its messaging through the New York Times, right? I mean, how this works is that I, as the owner of this YouTube channel, I can push out my own message through my YouTube channel. The United States government, as the owner of the New York Times and the entire journalistic apparatus of the U.S. of all the large newspapers, especially the Washington Post, can push out any message it wants at any point in time. It just has to go through slightly different mechanisms, but that's why the New York Times and so on are basically our state propaganda tools, right? Especially when it comes to foreign policy. So. By the way, Iran, though, this is I don't know why this needs to be sold or made up, dressed up as a big surprise that Iran is preparing to strike back at U.S. assets, because Iran has said it will do so. This is not a secret. Iran has said, look, if you join this warfare, if you strike us, we will strike at your assets. We will strike at your bases. We will obliterate your bases, is what the Iranians officially said. And of course they say that because that's what deterrence means. That's how it works, the tit for tat BS, right? And one thing we are also seeing on the fifth day of this nascent new Middle East war is that Iran hasn't struck any of the US installations. Iran hasn't killed a single US citizen, neither in Israel nor in any other place in Iraq or anywhere where the US has its troops stationed. So we see that Iran is actually constraining itself. It constrains itself. It focuses its counter attacks on Israeli targets, and in order to diminish Israel's capacity to further attack Iran, and B, to also strike back and punish Iran for moments when it attacks, to punish Israel for the moments when it attacks Iran, especially like trying to dissuade Israel from committing further war crimes. Like the other day, Israel attacks the TV station in Tehran, killing 3 people, 3 journalists, and of course targeting all of the journalists of Iran. And then in retaliation, in response to that, the next night, Iran fires at the Mossad headquarters, which something that to a good extent they have not done before. So you could see how Iran extremely precisely is calculating its counter strikes in order to use them as so-called reprisals against the illegal warfare of Israel. Now, Israel is of course continuing. It does nothing else but doubling down. It's trying to create wreak more havoc and saw also panic among the population of Tehran. So it's issuing in Farsi these evacuation orders, because Israel is used to ordering the people of other countries what to do. They do these evacuation orders with Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. They do them in Lebanon and so on. And it allows Israel to claim that they always warn the population. On the other hand, of course, it's pure terror. It's pure psychological terrorizing the population, the people who live in this area. So here is another report saying that Israeli military issued an evacuation warning for residents of Tehran's District 18, one of the poorest neighborhoods in Iran's capital city that is south of Merabat International Airport, which is used by domestic airlines and the Iranian Air Force. The warning said the military would begin an operation there in the coming hours. And as night follows day, the Iranians actually copy this stuff. Again, they don't start it; they start to balance it on their side in order to give Israel a taste of its own medicine. So the Iranians actually now issue evacuation orders in Israel. Here, this post says that residents of Tel Aviv and Haifa in Israel should leave these areas to save your lives. Iranian Brigadier General Saeed Bousavi said in a televised message on Tuesday, though it is not clear that Iran can make good on such threats. But it's this typical tit for tat thing. And actually, Iran is, again, extremely measured, because what it wants with this kind of action is to dissuade Israel from doing this themselves. Which is questionable whether they will reach this or not. Inside the United States, we're seeing a battle of the different factions going on. On the one hand, the people, the war hawks and the we need war pigs and this scum of the earth that is trying to further incentivize Trump to go all in, and chief neocon, chief war pig, chief war criminal, and I would say America's Hitler in chief, Lindsey Graham, is the one who's pushing hardest. He in his Twitter feed, he said he posted, "4 presidents have promised to stop Iran from getting a nuclear bomb. Only Donald J. Trump will deliver on that promise." Funnily enough, Lindsey Graham doesn't realize that he also just credited these 4 presidents, because while these 4 presidents were in office, Iran didn't get a nuclear bomb. So the 4 presidents said Iran cannot have a nuclear bomb, and Iran didn't get a nuclear bomb while these presidents were in office, especially during Obama's time, when Obama struck this multilateral agreement with Iran, the JCPOA, under which Tehran said, no, okay, fine, we will only enrich the uranium for the purpose of our civilian program, and you can monitor it from the outside. The IAEA can monitor this, and we will agree to not develop nuclear weapons. And that thing was in place, and until Donald Trump tore that up in late 2018, it was working, and it was working well. And all the other signatory states, including the Europeans and the Russians, all said, no, don't do this, don't tear it up. It's a good agreement, it's working. Tehran is keeping to it. The IAEA said, yes, Iran is keeping to it. We have zero indication that Iran is somehow in even one infringement of this. This is working. And then he tore it up, and then that was the moment when Iran then only years later, started to use this enrichment program as leverage in its negotiations with the US. So these 4 presidents, of course, they succeeded in doing what Lindsey Graham says must be done. But that's these ironies are obviously lost on these people. I don't think he's too stupid to understand what he says. He is too much of a war pig. He's too much of a Hitler in order to accept that his approach is not only illogical, but it's utter nonsense. So these people just want war. They want blood, and they want absolute total domination over especially peoples that oppose their views. So this is out, but at the same time, what's happening is that others in the Senate are trying to curtail the ability of Trump to be the sole decision taker of whether the nation is going to war with Iran or not. So Senator Tim Kaine, a Democrat of Virginia, spoke on the floor of the US Senate about his efforts to force a vote on requiring congressional approval before the US can engage in attacks on Iran. Noting the potential cost of American involvement in the conflict, Kaine said that engaging in a war with Iran, a third war in the Middle East since 2001, would be a catastrophic blunder for this country. So not all is lost inside the United States. The political process actually is working, but it's working on both ends. And as I said in my video from yesterday, the power to make war, the sovereign power of the country to make war, is actually within the U.S. Constitution, lies with Congress. It doesn't lie with the U.S. president. This is why there is such a danger that we might see a false flag attack on a U.S. ship, a carrier, something, which Ray McGovern actually is predicting at the moment that there will be an attack at one of at the carrier, at a U.S. carrier, and the carrier will sink and people will die, and it will be blamed on Iran, and then that will be used as an excuse to strike back. Because once a strike against U.S. assets, soil, people occurred, then it's within the purview of the president to, as the commander in chief of the forces, to determine how to guard the national security of the United States, right? So that would be a very, very, very neat way out of this problem, that officially it is up to Congress to decide on war and peace. It must also be said that because the United Nations Charter outlaws war as a means of international intercourse, and the United States is part of the United Nations. Since 45, the US has never declared war again on another nation. It has only declared military operations. The war on terror was not a real declaration of war. These old instruments of exchanging declarations of war ceased to be a habit of states after 45, but of course, de facto, they still go to war. But now we see the danger of this, right? The danger of pretending that war is not happening while doing military operations or while doing just interventions and humanitarian interventions. The danger is that you undermine the mechanisms that were created before 45 to constrain this power. And the US is a wonderful example how the Constitution actually constrains the power of the state, or makes sure that there's a checks and balance going on, and how this decision to go to war should not be the decision of one man or one woman, for that matter. It should be the decision, at least, of the elected representatives that make the laws of the land. And this is now, of course, switched off more or less with the way that political power has moved in the United States. It is now, in effect, in all practicality, the decision of the president of the United States, and we all understand that. But luckily, some people like Senator Tim Kaine are trying their best to use their office to somehow wrestle back a little bit of this decision-making power. But again, if there's a strike, if there's any kind of strike at U.S. assets in the Middle East, then all of these efforts will immediately be out of the window. I must also point out that the Europeans are now finding their tune. You know, in the beginning, in the first couple of days, it was unclear exactly how they would do their messaging. You could see that they were surprised as well by these actions, because there was no coordinated messaging. But now that coordinated messaging and how they want to approach this has more or less been settled for Israel. The decision is made that the phrase Israel's right to self-defense now also covers the act of a war of aggression against a third state, against another UN member state, that the unprovoked attack on Iran, not only unprovoked, but also without any justification, the unjustified attack against Iran is now covered by the right to self-defense. And they're all signaling this. And the most notorious one at the moment, unsurprisingly, is again Germany. Who would have thought this? Germany on the wrong side of history when it comes to war. Oh my! But I just need to play this to you, or show this to you, because it's again utterly grotesque that the Germans once again do it. And I've said this before, and I say it again. There's only one rule of thumb in Europe when it comes to war: look at what Germany does, and then don't do that one. That's all you need to know. And you don't necessarily have to fight against them. You can also remain neutral. Just don't do what the Germans do, because they have an almost nearly unbroken track record of choosing the wrong side, which is fantastic, maybe with the exception of the 2003 Iraq war, which Germany actually opposed and didn't join. One of the reasons why it couldn't be an all-out NATO war, why it had to be a coalition of the willing. So, there are laudable exceptions. But now again, already in the Gaza genocide, they picked the genocider to support them. And now again with Iran, they're supporting this one. Mr. Merz yesterday, still at the G7 in Canada, gave an interview to a German journalist. I mean, this is one of these beautiful moments, right? When the German state media asked the German chancellor exactly what he wants to be asked, so that he can produce his well prepared speech. This is all in German on the ZDF. The ZDF, the state broadcaster, of course, has it on their homepage as well, all free of charge because, of course, funded by taxpayer money, so that the propaganda can reach them, can have like maximum reach and go out, right? But in this discussion, this stenographer of power, this tool of power, asks the Chancellor of Germany, isn't it very tempting that the Israelis are now doing the dirty work for a regime that many in the world perceive as truly major source of disruption? And I'm reading it out loud to you because it's of course in German, right? So I translated it, right? So she asks the precise question, right? It's the precise question, so beautifully phrased. Isn't it tempting that the Israelis are now doing the dirty work? Isn't it kind of good for us that they're doing the dirty work? She's not she's aware that this is dirty, right? That it is an infringement of international law, that this is dirty. But isn't it tempting that they're doing that? And then his answer, in his really stern face, his very Merzian way. Look at the stern face, in the stern face, like, very serious, because a serious man, a man of integrity, a man who thinks about everything and weighs the options and understands the severity. And he then in very honest and deep, thoughtful voice, he answers, Mrs. Timmerman, I'm grateful to you for using the term dirty work. This is the dirty work that Israel is doing for all of us. We're also affected by this regime. This mullah regime has brought death and destruction upon the world with attacks, with murder and manslaughter, with Hezbollah, with Hamas on October 7th, 2023 in Israel. That would never have been possible without the regime in Tehran. The supply of drones to Russia from Tehran, yes, dirty work that Israel has done there. I can only say the greatest respect for the fact that the Israeli leadership had the courage to do this. Otherwise, we might have seen months, years of terror from this regime, and with nuclear weapons in their hands on top of it. Congratulations, Mr. Merz. I mean, considering the fact that Adolf Hitler is a literal predecessor to your function, I mean, this is in the best of German traditions, really the best tradition of justifying warfare. I mean, let's just remember in 39, Hitler gave this very important speech about, Poland having attacked Germany and Germany now defending the German people by firing back since 5 a.m. It's the same position, the same BS narrative, the same lies. It's fantastic. I mean, really, Hitler couldn't be more proud of having a successor like Mr. Merz. Congratulations, Mr. Merz. You just with this speech and this way of expressing yourself, you made him proud. You made him proud. The man with the mustache. You made him proud. That's as sad as it gets. It's as sad as it gets, ladies and gentlemen. I wish I had better news. I mean, maybe the best news is the that it at least is not hopeless for Iran. At least we don't have the big intervention of the United States yet. At least for the moment, there is still there's still a slight the door is still slightly ajar for de-escalation if a little miracle happens from the side of the United States, or Donald Trump changing his mind and walking away and just ordering everybody to stand down and withdrawing the military assets that have been readied and just telling them to come back and publicly do so, right? If he tells them publicly to do so, we will not intervene. We're withdrawing. Everybody come back. And Israel, you cannot have this war. Israel, you too need to stand down. We order you to stand down, and we ask the Iranians to stop bombing and show us their goodwill. Please show your goodwill by stopping the bombing. If Israel also stops the bombing, if that happened, then there's still a chance that it wouldn't come to the worst. That at the moment, the way things look, this is to me, this is unlikely to happen. I mean, I hope dies last. as they say. Iran is not defenseless. We can see that, but it will be an entirely different game, and actually Israel knows that, which is why they do these videos, right? Bomb, bomb, bomb Iran. That's not just for the Israelis; that's for the Americans, because the only thing that can save this going south of this military operation is now direct intervention by the US, and this has been, of course, the plan from the beginning, and it might be all part of the plan, and this entire charade now, this prelude to US intervention, might all be part of an already decided plan of action. Then again, we don't know. It seems that also in the United States, the political process is such that it pulls and pushes toward different directions. Tulsi Gabbard is pushing in the right direction. In the Senate, the Tim Kaine is pulling in the direction to de-escalate. We know Tucker Carlson is pushing into the direction of de-escalation. Part of the MAGA base is pushing toward de-escalation. So it's not a done deal. It just looks extremely scary, extremely frightening at the moment. But the Iranians are showing that they are not standing down. They do stand their ground, and they will not roll over and play dead. And this is a reality that now this huge mess that the Trump got the United States into somehow has to deal with, and this is probably part of his anger and frustration. I must add one more thing. Also, his vice president came out and he said he supported the president, but in very careful words. He very carefully said this is the decision of the president, and we must weigh the options and everything. This is it's not easy, but it's not a clear. It's not Pete Hegseth. It's not Lindsey Graham type of we need to go to war with Iran ASAP. So even within his closest circle, Donald Trump is currently has split allegiances. So the question is who is he talking to, and so on, and also whether or not this false flag attack on a U.S. ship, probably a ship, something that can sink, right, and can be gone, and then you cannot research it anymore, if that's going to happen or not. With this said, only time will tell. Let's pray. Whether you are a believer or an atheist like me, let's pray for de-escalation. Thank you.